and NEA. And before I continue, let me acknowledge the presence of our ever supportive, napakasipag na Senator Amy Marcos, all the way from Norte. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Afternoon.
And before also I proceed to the budget proper, let me recognize our committee secretary to acknowledge the resource persons for today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. For the continuation of the budget hearing of the Department of Energy, Office of the Secretary, Energy Regulatory Commission, and the National Electrification Administration, we would like to acknowledge the presence of our resource persons. From the Department of Energy, we have the Secretary Alfonso G. Cusi, Yusek Felix William B. Pontevella, Yusek Donato D. Marcos, Yusek Jesus Cristino P. Posadas, ASEC Jerpy Ergisa Jr., and Director Patrick T. Aquino. From the Energy Regulatory Commission, we have the Chairperson and CEO, Attorney Agnes B. S.T. de Banadera, Commissioner in Charge, Attorney Florecinda G. Baldodigal, Director Sharon O. Montaner, and Attorney Krisha Maniti Buela. From the National Electrification Administration, or NEA, we have the Administrator, Mr. Emmanuel T. Juaneza, Deputy Administrator, Sonia B. San Diego, and Department Manager, Laila B. Bonifacio. From the National Power Corporation, we have the Vice President for Legal Affairs, Attorney Melchor Ridulme, Vice President Rohel P. Teves, Vice President Alexander P. Hapon, Vice President Rene B. Barruela, and Senior Department Manager Ms. Lorlina E. Bomedian. From the PNOC, or the Philippine National Oil Company, we have the manager, Ms. Jennifer Racho, and OIC Manager, Ms. Maria Belinda F. Tubero. From the PNOC Exploration Corporation, or PNOCEC, we have the President and CEO, Lieutenant General Rosando B. Brigues, and Mr. Alexis Mansi de la Torre, Manager of the Planning and Budget Department. From the PNOC Renewables Corporation, or PNOCRC, we have Mr. Pedro Enrique. From the National Transmission Corporation, or TRANSCO, we have Ms. Dina Obiza. That's it, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, ComSec. This is supposed to be the continuing continuing hearing of Department of Energy and the ERC. However, upon conferring with Senator Pimentel, he will just send us his questions, and we will refer that to the Department of Energy for answers. He also reserves his right to answer or to ask more questions during plenary discussion. So he sent me a message, and I talked to him earlier that he will have more questions later on during plenary. And insofar as the ERC is concerned, I also talked to Senator Risa, and she will just send a list of questions also. In fact, she already sent a list of questions for the ERC to answer. So with that manifestation, I would like to ask Senator Amy Marcos if she has any more questions to the ERC and to the DOE.
With the ERC, I have a number of notes here, but as the meeting went on for quite a long time, I was wondering if there were any, is there a new weighted average cost of capital of NGCP according to the last hearing following the Luzon blackouts early this year? Can we be updated on such matters? Kasi concern na mauulit-ulit.
Okay. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, po.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Your Honors. Insofar as the WAC is concerned, we engaged the services of a consultant, and the initial report on the WAC on NGCP has already been submitted to ERC. And the next thing that will be done is to go into the process of review by ERC of what was submitted and also to be presented to the stakeholders. And it is important also, Your Honors, to to say that the WAC is just a component of three factors which are important for us to use. So we have the CAPEX, the OPEX, and the WAC for us to be able to complete the determination and for us to be able to give the WAC that was submitted to us the significance that we need in the evaluation of the rate right now.
Yes. Will the
Yes.
WAC report also include an update on the status of the rotational blackouts in Luzon? I recall that under my chairman, you also had a report and a previous hearing regarding this investigation of the ERC. Were the power generating companies adequately able to explain their plan, their unplanned, their mysteriously coincidental outages, their compliance to power supply agreements? Are we going to be able to finally penalize those who exceeded their allowed outages?
Mr. Chair, Your Honor, the WAC is separate and distinct from the outages because
Right.
the WAC is part of the building blocks in the complete evaluation of what is allowable or updated maximum revenue that we are supposed to give, and also part of the reset. Now, for the outages that we discussed and presented the last time, we have already finalized some, in fact, promulgated some of the decisions on our findings. And there are penalties imposed already, Your Honors. Right now, we have promulgated 6 cases, and the others, while not yet promulgated, they have been decided. So
How many
between
are
the
pending?
promulgation and the decision, Your Honors, we have the rewriting of some of the aspects of the decision.
All
So
right.
that's
So
the difference, Your
if
Honor.
6 are finalized, how many are pending?
Uh, then we have only 8
Okay.
that has gone through some degree of evaluation and are ready for presentation to the commission for the final decision, Your Honor.
Yes, we look forward to that, given that it's important that we disavow any notion of conspiracy and collusion, di ba? Napag-usapan na mega pa eh.
Opo.
And
Opo.
kinakailangan na talagang mapatawan ng parusa yung mga umabuso. So, importante lang po yun kasi talagang problema natin. So, between the WAC report and then there'll be an outages report, I'm also a little bit concerned about the ERC not having submitted to the audit team financial statements for the period of January to December of 2020. Is this correct? Because the COA issued a management letter in lieu of an annual audit report. Perhaps this is an old report and you have since complied with their requisites.
Your Honor, we have complied with the submission of reports, Your Honor, except that, yeah, we have to admit that there was a delay. We were able to submit that only about end of June.
Yes.
Or July, early part of July.
Kasi hindi pa
We were
nabibigay
really,
sa amin. Maybe the ERC could supply the committee with a COA report. We were not able to derive it from last year.
yes, Your Honor, we will do that. We were affected really by the quarantine of some of our people, especially in the finance and administrative service. We had several, Your Honor, several cases.
Yes, as I recall from GAA 2020, ERC had had an unobligated allotment of 23% or 178 million. What has happened to this unobligated amount?
Let
And
me just
there are
consult my
unpaid
notes.
obligations amounting to 116 million.
Let me
If you
just
don't have the data on hand, please, just to clear your accounts, please feel free to submit them so that they will not arise in plenary anymore.
Yes, Your Honor, we will submit the details, but for the information of this committee,
May
Your Honors,
unobligated kasi kayo eh, last year pa.
the BER for 2020 actually went up to 76.70%. So the details, Your Honor, we will submit.
Yes, but that's 2020 eh. We're talking about 2022 na. May natitira pa dun sa lumang budget. Kaya pinagtatakahan namin bakit hindi pa na-obligate yan. What are these unpaid obligations? And the status of the project's finance? Perhaps you can provide us so that we are clear.
We shall provide, Your Honor, with the details of the unobligated because there is still a period
That's
for
correct.
implementation up to June
Year end.
30 of up to December 31, 2020, Your Honor.
That's
But
correct.
we shall
Consultancies.
Yes.
basically those may be the bulk actually refer to consultancies, which
I see.
we have gone through the procurement, Your Honor.
Yes, this seems to be sporadic because looking at the GAA naman of 2021, meron na naman unobligated. Kaya eto, yung amount naman nito, malaki-laki na siya. So, out of the releases, yung unobligated mo, nasa 71.95%. But that's 2021. For the same period, disbursements only amounted to a smaller amount. What's the status of these unobligated allotments?
I will also submit, Your Honor, because that in most probabilities is because the fund, the procurement process is not yet done because anyway, we are allowed under the DBM circulars and
That's correct.
under the law to conduct the procurement until a certain period of time. As of 2021, Your Honor, our BER actually was at 47% level.
47%, but that's still less than half. You only have a few months left, so we're a little bit concerned we'll be stuck with funds for reversion.
Your Honors, the big ticket items have been actually procured already. We went through
Oh,
procurement.
that's good to hear. Okay, and I guess the usual question will be what's the status of the conversion of the CSP contracts for the conversion of the non-firm AS contracts to firm contracts? I mean, at the risk of sounding really makulit and repetitive, maybe we could just ask you, has the NGCP started the bidding process for its ancillary services requirement?
Your Honor, please. Actually, there is a delay in the conversion of the firm and the non-firm due to some technical issues with those with the GENCO subject of the conversion, and we have in fact issued an order requiring the both NGCP and the GENCO concerned to give us a very final timeline for the conversion. So that's the status. And Your Honors, actually, we have been meeting quite regularly with the NGCP and the participation of TOB just to be able to get the latest of the issues that they encounter as they do the conversion, Your Honors.
Thank you very much, but we would like to see the original timeline versus the new ERC order containing a timeline so that we can keep track of these conversions too, because everyone is very anxious about NGC performance. if that's
Your
okay.
Honor, if I
Yes.
may add,
Yeah.
in the process of the conversion and when we review the statistics, Your Honor, there is actually, if we do a conversion of 1:1, there will be an excess of the non-firm to be converted into firm.
Yes, for
So
sure.
yun
Yes, I
po
think
yung
this was discussed
minamanage
in a
ngayon.
previous hearing.
Oho.
Oo,
Yun
that's
po yung
right.
minamanage ngayon.
That's been discussed as the previous hearing. In any case, we just like an update on that because we're all looking forward to the regularization of all of this. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Chairman, is it only ERC or are we all over the place today?
We have three agencies here with us. We have DOE, ERC, and NEA. DOE and ERC presented their budgets yesterday, and this is just a continuation of the discussion. If there are senators who wish to ask more questions, we can do that. Then after that, we will go into NEA.
I just had two quick questions kay Secretary Cruzy, kung okay lang. Kasi napansin ko may 25 million, maliit na halaga to for the nuclear energy program. Do we still have programs under the NEPIO? Do we still have plans to operate a nuclear power plant? I recall that the president himself had some doubts about the constitutionality of this effort, and yet we continue to allocate funds to the program.
Thank you, Madam Senator, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon again to everybody. Yes, we have a continuing program for nuclear, and that 20 million is for the different studies and the different meetings that we are having, or we will be having for the 2022. As we reported already yesterday, we have submitted already our position, our national position, so that it can be our energy mix. So we are just waiting for that, and we get that, and then we will go on the legislative.
Unobligated ang
I see. So, I am to assume, Mr. Secretary, that in fact the Russian discussion of operating a nuclear power plant has been scuttled or is on hold in the meantime.
Again, ma'am, sorry.
So our previous discussion with the discussions with the Russians to operate the nuclear power plant in the Philippines, to revive Bataan and so on, have been held up or scuttled or just on hold for the meantime.
Yeah, it's just pending, ma'am, so that we can proceed with all the discussions that we made with the Russians and the Koreans. We need approval of the president to include it in our energy mix, so that we can proceed with a more definitive study and acquisition program of modular nuclear power plant for island provinces, Mr. Chairman, Madam Senator.
Yes, by way of information lang po, Secretary Cruzy, the DOE opened the third open and competitive selection process last January, and we were just curious about the results, given that the DOE, once again, a constitutional question, allowed 100% foreign ownership in large geothermal projects. Did any foreigners participate in the end in the OCSP3? Did any of them win? And has DOE formulated a position on the legal concerns surrounding Article 12, Section 2 of the 87 Constitution regarding natural resources?
Yes, Madam, if I may, can I ask Attorney Assistant Secretary Jerton Erquisa, who no, sorry, Yusek Prentibella to reply on that, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Yusek Wimpich, with regard to the large geothermal projects that became somewhat controversial given the allowance of 100% foreign ownership.
We have the basis constitution.
Audio, please.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me now?
Yep, soft, but a little bit better.
Okay, ma'am. Clear?
Yep, thank you.
The Constitution provides three modes on how we can utilize our natural resources. First one is the state doing it alone.
Mm.
Second one is the state with the joint venture. And third one, foreign through FTAA.
Yes.
Through, yes, ma'am.
Yes.
In the third mode, it was clarified that this should be minerals. No? And in the RE Act, it includes minerals. The definition there is it includes minerals. And in the RE Act, geothermal has been defined as an energy source that is a mineral. And because of that, we have also based on a study that FTAA geothermal being classified as a mineral based on the Supreme Court decision and as well as the provisions of the Constitution.
Yes, the question, Yusek Wimpy, arises because even in the third mode of production sharing agreements, the Constitution is quite clear that at least 60% of the capital should be owned by citizens. The DOE allowed 100%.
The third mode, ma'am, if it's FTAA, it can be 100%. I can check on the provision now, ma'am. But as far as
I think
the
the Constitution makes no quibbles. It's fairly clear cut that it's always 60%.
that's
In
on
any
the
case,
second-
did any foreigner win for geothermal?
for that one, ma'am, I think there is none, but I have to validate that from the REMB. Kasi ma'am, hindi ko pa siya na-handle at that time. But I think personally, there was none. But nonetheless, I would want the permission of the Senate for me to validate the answer.
The confusion heightens when the tax regime is made to come into play. There's a need to clarify the tax in as much as inclusions of 60% government share is concerned. In the 70s, the Philippine government was consistently represented by two investors that corporate income tax is assumed by government and forms part of the 60%. But in the COA 2011 decision, it reversed that. So I would also like clarity on the 60% tax. Is that going to include their payment or it's exclusive? Kasi there's a level of uncertainty on the tax regime. Again, that has not been dealt with in newer legislations. That's the same issue that arises with renewable. Nakakagulo rin sa tax at DOE has not seen fit to rule on these things. So we always have to go to court.
Yes, ma'am. I think we can refer to what had happened that is under arbitration as regards the 60-40 share of Malampaya. And that is
60-40, I'm now talking no longer about ownership because you promised me to send some clarification on that. Ang kinaklarify ko ngayon yung tax regime kasi inclusion of the payments on corporate income tax. Iaawas ba yan sa 60% ng gobyerno o hindi? Yun ang hindi maliwanag. Malaki-laki siya eh.
yes, ma'am. Yun, opo.
Kasi
I
yung
was just
Commission on Audit, iba yung position kesa sa DOE dati.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
You're
Yun nga-
aware of this controversy.
That's right, ma'am. That was what I was referring to. And that the position of the DOE and I think the DOF is not consistent with that of the Commission on Appointments. So we
Commission
based
on Audit.
I'm sabi ko? Sorry, Commission on Audit. So that being the case, we are looking into it because that was still based on the design of former Prime Minister Virata. So we were looking
So
in.
this happened in 2011. It's not quite right. This is way past
No,
Prime
I mean,
Minister
the basis of the position of the DOE stems back to that original design of service contracting. So the DOE and the DOF were consistent on that.
I
So
see.
yes, ma'am. The stability of the
Yeah, the
investment.
problem is that we are deemed once again an unreliable jurisdiction when one office, COA, does not echo the Department of Finance and Department of Energy's position. Magulo siya for foreign investors. Ganon din sa renewable, di ba? Nagkakaproblema. Lahat ng host may issue at we're compelled to go to the Court of Tax Appeals.
Yes, ma'am. And that was also brought up before in the previous hearings. I don't know if it was this Congress or the previous one where it was brought up.
Yun lang itatanong ko kasi magulo na nga yung constitutional basis, mas lalo pang magulo yung tax. So, sana maliwanagan namin sa DOE at siguro kausapin na lang ninyo si Mike Aguinaldo sa COA para magkasundo tayo dyan. Mahirap yan at wala talagang papasok na investor kapag ganyan tayo kagulong kausap.
We are coordinating, ma'am, with whatever is allowed by us by law. So we're also looking into yung independence of the Commission on Audit. But nonetheless,
whatever is allowed by law is stipulated by the legislature. But
Yes,
the DOE can certainly initiate any number of changes and clarifications. Sana manggaling din sa inyo.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Correct.
Kasi naiiwan nakatiwangwang itong mga tax issues, constitutional issues, sa geothermal at sa selection process at pati na rin sa renewables. So if we can get some clarity on that, Yusek Wimpy and Secretary Cusi, that's all I have for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
You, Senator Amy, I don't know what type of computer do you have in your brain, but you seem to know everything, and the level of detail of your knowledge is amazing. I was telling my staff, you don't. It's very difficult to ask pointed questions, and this is not the only committee that you're like this. Committees you're like this.
Alas, Chairman Sherwin, nahalata na kung sino yung mga senador who really have no life.
But let me just follow up and second the questions and the motion of Senator Amy on the issue of the ancillary services. I would like to second the request of Senator Amy on the timetable, Madam Chairperson Agnes. This is already in motion, and we supported the move of Secretary Cusi to convert the non-firm to firm. It's now in motion, and we would like to get a timetable on that so that we will be guided accordingly. And on top of that, of course, we are very concerned on the rate impact. That's why we're also flagging the DOE to study carefully the rate impact of this conversion. In fact, we in our hearing where Senator Amy was present, we suggested to conduct biddings or competitive selection process on those conversions so that we will assure the public that we're getting the best price. So two things. One is timetable, and then second, the rate impact. On the issue of NEPIO, the nuclear, Senator Amy is correct. In fact, I raised that yesterday. To date, we have allocated 266 million pesos for the research of nuclear energy. And to be frank about it, and with all due respect, I haven't seen any written report or any hard report on this research, despite the huge amount of money that we have allocated. So we requested Secretary Cusi to furnish us that report, and later on we will request through another hearing a briefing of the NEPIO and the nuclear ambition of the country. And third, again, Senator Amy, you're correct. No, this tax issues is one of the reasons why Chevron and Shell is
Yes.
quite in their operations here in our different government institutions have different interpretation of the law. And we like to request the Department of Energy to submit to us to amend PD 87. Admittedly, we need to revisit that. We need to make sure that the entitlements due to the contractors, so that COA will not get it the other way, and DOE and UF will interpret the other way. The casualty here are the investors who put hard-earned money to develop our resources. So we would welcome from the suggestions to amend, maybe come up with a whole new different oil and gas law, just to make sure that it's clear for our investors before they come in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator. Before we continue, let me recognize Yusek Wimpy.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Would just like to cite for the record that it is under Section 2 of Article 12.
Article 12, are you referring to the Constitution?
Yes, ma'am. On the
Yeah, natural resources.
fourth paragraph, yung the president may enter into agreements with foreign-owned corporations involving either technical or financial assistance for large-scale exploration. And related to that, just for the record, RA 9513, paragraph Q, defining geothermal energy as used in the context of this act shall be considered renewable, and the provisions of the CAT are applicable thereto geothermal energy as a mineral resource. So that those are the provisions that the committee can look into, and it's also under letter S of RA 9513. So we're just citing for the record.
Mag-draft. Ang DOE na lang mag-draft since pinag-aralan ninyo, tapos bigay ninyo kay chairman para mapag-aralan rin namin.
Yes,
So, yun sana. And please be warned, no, that some of our senators are violently opposed to any form of nuclear. In fact, Senator Risa Ontiveros cut her teeth and initially garnered national fame because of that.
Yes.
So you have to help us here.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very, very much, ma'am, for allowing us to cite this provision.
Thank you, Secretary. Yes, Secretary recognized.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Like somebody in your room has their microphone on, so paki-off na lang so we don't get feedback.
Yes, Mr. Chair, it was turned off already. I would
Yeah.
just like to manifest, Mr. Chair, that after the hearing yesterday, we started to consolidate all documents and reports with respect to what we have been doing in nuclear, including the integrated nuclear review that we had with the International Atomic Energy Agency, the integrated work plan that we have prepared, and documents that we have submitted to the Office of the President, as well as other annexes and presentations that were done in the course of the meetings of the Nuclear Energy Program Interagency Committee. Please give us until Wednesday next week, and we will submit it, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Asek. Thank you very much for that. With that, Senator Amy, any more questions for these two departments? You're on mute, Senator.
Sorry. No, that will be all for today. We should proceed to NEA.
Thank you. So with that, we are favorably endorsing the budget of the Department of Energy and the Energy Regulatory Commission to plenary. And we will further debate their budgets once we open the debates in plenary. So thank you very much to Secretary Kusi and to Chair Agnes for participating today. You're welcome to stay. Now it's your option to stay. But the next is we'll be hearing the budget of NEA. So we recognize Yusek Juanesa, Administrator Juanesa, for the budget of um, NEA.
Good afternoon,
Well,
Senator Gatchalan.
Administrator, we're getting feedback, and your voice is not clear. Somebody in your room might, I think their microphone is open.
Mr. Chair, hear me now clear?
Yes, much better, very clear.
Okay. Good afternoon, Senator Gatchalian, the chairman, and the attending senators, and of course, Secretary Kusi and Chairwoman Agnes, and everybody else. Good afternoon. For the overview of our presentation, I would like to state that the 2022 budget of NEA is 15% lower than the 2021 budget. And that's the whole, scenario that we will be presenting. With that, Mr. Chairman, with the permission, I would like DA Sonia to make the presentation of our budget, given that I have been in this position for just like less than 10 days. So in terms of efficient utilization of time for the presentation, if you will permit, Mr. Chair, to give the floor to DA Sonia Santiago, sir.
Administrator, prior to the hearing, we requested the heads of the offices to present their budgets personally, because my view here is this is your budget and you have to stand by your budget. However, due to your very short stint, I understand it's only 10 days, we will allow your assistant to present the budget. We'll make an exception this time around. But however, just to emphasize, this is the agency's budget. So it's important that the head of the agency should stand by their budget. But we'll make an exception today.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. But on questions that would deal with issues that I'm familiar with while I was in DOE, I will answer them, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Ma'am, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Your Honor. Good afternoon po. Good afternoon, Secretary Kusi and the rest of the Energy family. For our accomplishments, we'll start with our accomplishments, Your Honor. For 2020, we are delighted to share and acknowledge that with the national government's continued support, the agency was able to accomplish and complete the following programs, activities, projects, despite the challenges of the present pandemic. Energized 594 CHOs as compared to the calibrated target of 478 CHOs as approved by GCG. Enhanced grid lines of 8 barangays. Connected additional 522,905 member consumers. Attained national system loss of 10.13, which is lower than 2019 system loss of 10.18%. Collected 99.15% of ACE's loan amortization. Paid 824 million out of 880 million, or 93.60% in relation to NG advances. Provided loans to ECs in the amount of 439.98 million as compared to our target of 250 million. Realized net margin on financial operation for the period in the amount of 229.31 million. For ENA remitted to NG, 85 million for dividend, and paid to BIR the amount of 67.82 million for corporate income tax. For the first half of 2021, NEA was able to energize 590 sitios, connect 291,432 electricity consumers, attain system loss of 10.44%, attain 100% collection efficiency, release 236 million loans to electric cooperatives, and maintain a positive margin for the period. In partnership with electric cooperatives, the NEA continuously implement the phase 2 of sitio electrification program. For year 2020, 594 sitios were completed and energized, and this contributed to the connection of 522,905 additional consumers, which is in line with the President directive to provide electricity access for all. For the remaining 11,669 sitios, NEA needs approximately 17.5 billion. As of June 30, 2021, from the target of 1,085 sitios for the year, 590 sitios are already accomplished, with a total project cost of 695 million, or an average of 1.18 million per sitio. The electrification map shows the 121 electric cooperatives coverage highlighted in yellow, while the 24 PIOUs or LGUs operated utilities are those colored in pink. NEA and its accomplishments are likewise shown, wherein 100% of the provinces, cities, municipalities, 99% of barangays, 85% of sitios, and 90% of consumer connections within EASY's coverage area were all energized as of June 30, 2021. Comparison of EASY's coverage area versus total Philippines shows that the ECs are serving 16 out of 17 regions, 78 out of 81 provinces, 90 out of 146 cities, 1,387 out of 1,488 municipalities, and 36,086 out of 42,046 barangays. All areas within the EC coverage are energized, except the 6 barangays located in Maguindanao, which are incurring peace and order problems. On the sitio level, 125,969 out of 148,906, or 85% are energized as of June 30, 2021. Based on 2015 census, of the 14,339,119 potential connections, 90% or 12.8 million are served with electric service. Additional consumers of 1.6 million in cities and municipalities that registered 100% energization level based on 2015 census were also served as of June 30, 2021. This translates into 68 million Filipinos in the countryside enjoying the benefits of electricity. For our corporate targets, these are energization of 1,085 sitios, connection of additional 400,000 consumers, reduction in system loss to 12%, collection efficiency of 98.23%, and release of 1.2 billion loans to the electric cooperatives to finance capital expenditure projects, renewable energy projects, guarantee releases, working capital requirements, short-term credit facility, and calamity loans. and NEA to continuously realize a net margin from the agency's financial operation. This slide would show the fund source for the 2022 budget and the corresponding programs and projects consisting of 2.7 billion from our internally generated fund, representing 53% of the total budget, intended for operating expenditures, loans outlay, and equipment. While the 1.83 billion represents subsidies from the national government, comprising 47% of the budget intended for rural electrification projects. By expense class, the 2022 budget contains 57% for MOOE, which includes subsidy from the national government for rural electrification and administrative expenses. 33% for capital outlay, which covers loans for electric cooperatives, CAPEX, and other requirements. INEA's procurement of equipment and vehicles needed for its operation. The remaining 10% is for personal services cost for 341 plantilla positions. Comparatively, the 2022 NEP level is 15% lower than the 2021 approved budget due to the decrease in allocation for subsidies and the full payment of NG advances in the current year. Specifically, SRF was allocated 200 million only for 2022 as compared to 750 million in 2021. For our fund utilization, for year 2020, approved subsidy appropriation for GAA is 2.3 billion. However, in compliance with DBM Circular number 580, it was adjusted to 1.99 billion due to some projects that were identified or certified for discontinuance to further provide for COVID-19 emergency measures. Discontinued projects include the 250 million for SRF, 45 million for the establishment of customer management and quick response system of the 3 electric cooperatives, and 10% of LGU and GO's resettlement projects amounting to 11 million. Moreover, pursuant to AO number 41 and NBC number 586, the NEA returned to BTR 41.39 million last October 12, 2021. Thus, as of June 30, 2021, NEA's obligation rate is 99.68% and disbursement rate is 96.37%. As of September 30, 2021, obligation rate is 100% already, while disbursement rate is 96.65%. On the other hand, as of June 30, 2021, NEA has yet to receive funds for the approved projects for 2021. NEA received the SARO for ESERV and Sitio Electrification Program only last August 26, 2021 and September 27, 2021 respectively. With the colatilla that the prior years subsidy balances may be used for 2021 projects. Thus, a low obligation rate of 3.85% as of June 30. But however, upon receipt of the SARO, the obligation rate is at 58.4% already. Wala dyan. Okay. For our COA observations and recommendations, in the COA's examination of NAIA's operations for the calendar year 2020, it issued 15 AOM, 4 of which are about financial, 10 for other audit observations pertaining to subsidy, and 1 for gender and development. On the status of management implementation on COA's audit recommendations, of the 58 audit recommendations, 31 are already fully complied with, while the remaining 27 are either partially implemented, delayed in implementation, not implemented yet, or with ongoing implementation. That's all for NAIA's presentation. Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ma'am Sonia. Senator Amy, any questions to Nea?
Yeah, just very basic questions regarding their budget po. It's clear that the subsidy of the national government, the 1.8, is now going to be reduced. So the decrease in the subsidy, how will it impact your targets for the SEP and the ECERF? Kasi parang nabawasan siya ng 27% of last year's subsidy, and yet you're maintaining the targets at the same level. Tama ba yun? 1,085 pa rin yung sitio na sinabit niyo sa amin. Pero yung decrease niya, 27%. Totoo ba yan?
Your Honor, for the sitio electrification program, we have the same budget for 2021 and 2022.
Okay, which is how much? How much will be the SEP? So that's why you're able to maintain the 1,085 sitio target.
Yes,
so how
ma'am,
much
yes.
are you allocating to SEP?
1.627 billion.
Sige, okay. So that's the one that you're maintaining. It's the same level.
Yes,
However, we all know that the subsidy will be less. So, alin ang matatamaan ng mga projects and programs?
Actually, the subsidy that was reduced is for the Emergency and Resiliency Fund.
Emergency and Resiliency. Oo, yung
Yes.
Co-op Emergency and Resiliency Fund. So, paano yan?
So we actually we allocate the whatever subsidy is appropriated to us. We allocate that to the electric cooperatives damage cost proportionately according
so-
to the total evaluated cost.
What you're saying, we are maintaining the SEP at the level it is now, but the co-ops will suffer the reduction.
In terms of Emergency Resiliency Fund, in terms of releasing subsidies for calamities.
Okay, speaking of which, I'm a little bit concerned about this because Beneco, or the Benguet Electric Co-op, was suddenly taken over by NEA with the help of armed police forces this week. Matapos yung bagyong Maring na napakaraming namatay, sa kaguluhan nito, sumawali pa rin yung NEA at na-take overan yung Beneco. The move was condemned roundly by the entire Baguio community and by most Ilocanos who were aware of the move. Why did NEA try to take over Beneco in this manner? And in the wake of a very fatal typhoon, what brought it on ba?
If I may, Mr. Chair. Yeah, thank you, Senator Jaime Marcos. This is Administrator Vanessa. Firstly, the term takeover is not quite, appropriate, because what happened was there was a selection of a GM, and there was a defiance of on the part of the OIC acting GM.
I see.
So the timing was actually I would say unfortunately when the marine typhoon also came in, and when they mention of the police enforcement, it's a function as provided by the law that we can deputize the local PNP to help us execute, implement the NEA board resolution on the matter of selection of the GM.
But was the PNP presence merited? Was there violence or any threat thereof that necessitated the calling out by NEA of the police?
Firstly,
you said that the community was very, very alarmed.
If I may, Mr. Chair, there was enough time given to the BOD's board of directors and the acting GM, and it was about 2 weeks since we have released the board resolution on the appointment of the new GM, and there was a blatant defiance not to follow the order of NEA. So we were compelled, Mr. Chair, to seek, the help of the PNP. And however, we had a good meeting with the RD of Cordillera that no physical contact should be made, but rather it's just a presence of the PNP.
So are we guaranteed that there will be no violent incidents in the following weeks?
In terms, Mr. Chair, of something that we are trying to work it out with Mayor Magalong, Mr. Chair, that it will be a peaceful, situation in the franchise area, or Baguio City in particular, perhaps, and no interruption of the power supply. In the meantime, the appointed GM and the project supervisor per NEA resolution on the presence of NEA in Beneco, they are staying away from the Beneco complex.
Di walang nagbabantay. If they're staying away, wala na natira doon.
Hindi, when I say
it's not very reassuring po.
The police are still there, but
Okay.
the team of NEA are outside the Beneco compound, and the GM, acting GM Licovin, is in the compound, and they're performing their job. So there's a
Thank you very much.
peaceful,
Yes,
impact.
Mr. Chairman, if you will just give me the benefit of our parochial concerns, all of us from Congress are proudly parochial. Itatanong ko lang itong cost of the damage to the power distribution facilities in North and Central Luzon following Typhoon Maring. As you know, there were upwards of 2 weeks outages in the North and Central Luzon. Do we already have an estimate and do we have a plan to address this problem? It's only the first of several other typhoons expected this year.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are collating the reports from the electric cooperatives as to the impact or damage of Typhoon Maring.
Sir, ang tagal na po, 3 linggo na.
Yes, that's true, Madam, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just enjoin them to please push the effort, given that the lack of electricity in this day and age is a real, is almost a human rights violation. So it's most important that you do, in fact, get this together as quickly as possible. Mr. Chairman, curious lang ako, are we updated already on the status of your request last year to present an action plan to address electrical poles in the middle of the roads that are rendering road widening projects useless? Parang wala akong nakikitang line item tungkol sa transference of electrical poles. Meron ba?
Question, Senator Amy. Let's hear it from Leah on their action plan.
O, yun pala eh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The update on the pole relocation and this update and accomplishment is together with the DPW heads. And I think we have the slide. We have the slide. The update that we have on the pole relocation is we have accomplished 34.7% as of.
Yes, I still see a lot of them. So it's correct that in fact the bulk have not yet been transferred.
If I may, Madam, Mr. Chair, the accomplishment that we're talking goes through from north to south, meaning from Luzon
Yes,
to Mindanao.
understood.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, which means that the majority have not yet been transferred talaga.
Correct, Mr. Chair. In fact, we still have to relocate 46,984 poles, Mr. Chair. Out of the 56,640, as identified, our cutoff date was November of 2020, Mr. Chair.
I see. Well, understandably, COVID really delayed all our efforts. Perhaps you can just give us an update on that. There are so many members of the Senate who are really bothered by that. I'd just like to go to the audit disallowances that remained unsettled. I think COA has some misgivings about your books because the audit disallowances of 125 million remain, and then only 46 out of 102 audit recommendations were acted upon. So can we have an update on your talks with COA, because this will inevitably crop up?
Mr. Chair, if I may be given the permission for the DA on finance to explain it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We are continuously complying with the audit observations and recommendations of the
Hindi nga
COA.
eh, sabi nga nila hindi daw eh. Diba? Nagrereklamo nga sila sa disallowances ninyo na unsettled pa rin.
If I may, Mr. Chair, actually we only have 125 million for the disallowance, but it's not reflected yet in the AAR. Maybe you mean the unliquidated subsidies, Mr. Chair, Your Honor.
I'm referring to an amount that is defined as unsettled audit disallowances, 125,568,000. Tama ba to? This is
Yes, Your
as
Honor.
of December 31, 2020, the last COA report that we are in possession of.
Yes, Your Honor. That is a subject of our appeal to the commission proper. And for so long, it has not been decided yet by the
Ano ba
commission.
yan? Bakit parati nakikerry over yan taon-taon? Ano bang ina-appeal dyan?
Actually, those are incentives and allowances that were disallowed by our COA. And we have justified this and provided explanation and justifications.
Pareho kayo ng Solgen. Ito yung kini-question na malalaki daw sahod nyo.
Hindi po. Hindi.
Yan yata eh.
Hindi naman po. Naka-ano na po yan, naka-appeal na po yan sa commission proper, Your Honor, Mr.
Pero
Chair.
how long has this been going on? Parang matagal na siya eh.
Yes, ma'am. As far as 2016.
Kaya nga eh, 5 years na yan, Mr. Chair, hindi pa nasisettle, pambira. Okay, sige, one last na lang. Yung total equity seems to be falling every year, ano? So how will this affect the operation of the NEA kung yung total equity ninyo pababa ng pababa, di ba? Parang may 1 to 2%, bawas ng bawas, continue to drop to 4.4% at year end of 2022. So you have less and less equity. So I was just wondering what's the immediate impact on your programs and plans, given that napakarami pa ng rural electrification areas, pagkahaba-haba pa ng listahan.
If I may, Your Honor, Mr. Chair, actually, we annually request from the national government an appropriation for equity contribution to increase our capitalization. But unfortunately, that has not been recommended by the DBM, Your Honor,
Yes,
Mr.
that's
Chair.
right. In fact, it's not only not increased, it is actually reduced. Sige. Okay. I think, Mr. Chairman, that will be all from my side. But we would like to get an update, as earlier stated, on the matters brought forward. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I may manifest, I'd like to give an update on the damage caused by Typhoon Maring. The estimate is 6.59 million pesos, and restored power is already 99.92% household level, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
Thank you.
that's right, but it took forever. We're in the 3rd week, sir. Anyway, in the future, sana hindi naman umaabot ng 2-3 linggo. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Amy. Senator Amy, I want to pursue your topic on Beneco because you're right. No, I work out every morning, so I watch the news every morning, and for 2 consecutive days
Diba?
I've seen of Beneco, and this morning in ENC, it's the same news, no, and they showed the policemen raiding the office of Beneco. So of course, this is quite scary, no? Well, we'll show the video quickly. Kasi
Yes, and then, Mr. Chairman, this is in the wake of a very, very bad typhoon. So everyone was quite agitated and on edge already.
ito po yung nakita ko this morning. Yan, wala yata na.
Actually break anything because he just pushed aside an iron sheet to be able to gain entry to the office. Is that how your office looks like? Isn't there a door to your office?
You know, sir, pag hindi yan eh. Kasi nakikita natin sa video, merong mga napabasa and nababa.
Mr. Chair, if I may manifest.
Don't finish the video anymore, Administrator. But my question is, how did this happen? Is Beneco an ailing cooperative?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Firstly, I will answer your question. It is not, Mr. Chair, ailing. And the picture shown, Mr. Chair, was or happened on 18 October when the PNP together with the GM Banaag and PS Attorney Mayo walked in to the Benico complex. That was about 3 in the morning, Mr. Chair. But present situation, Mr. Chair, is the Bineco employees were back since 2 days ago when they walked back 2 days ago, and there's no more, I would say, chaos or trouble in the Bineco complex. And in fact, as I've mentioned, the Bineco employees and technical team has reinstated the SCADA system, which they have pulled out earlier. So it's back to normal operations, Mr. Chair.
Yusek, how, if this is not an ailing co-op, then why did NEA intervene? NEA can only intervene if it's an ailing co-op. Or else, if it's a well-run co-op, because it's not ailing, then let their board decide who to assume as GM in accordance with their succession plan and in accordance with NEA rules.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chair, precisely it's not an ailing electric cooperative, but there was a vacancy on the position of the GM, and Engineer Licobin was the OIC, and then it was open, the position was open and published for applicants. So what happened was GM Marie applied for the job, but it went through the process until she was endorsed, and the Bineco board rejected the endorsement made by the NEA board, and then that all started, Mr. Chair, where we are now. So meaning there's no takeover actually, but rather it's the resistance and non-acceptance of the Bineco board and the acting GM on the decision of the NEA board based on the selection of the GM, Mr. Chair.
Administrator, who endorsed Attorney Rafael?
The NEA board, Mr. Chair.
Why did you endorse if it's not an ailing co-op? The board of Bineco can choose on their own because they're not ailing. They're functioning properly.
Yeah, Chairman, it's quite a profitable operation, and they were surprised that it came to this.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, there was no takeover actually in the first place. The position of the GM was published as open. So then we have one of the applicants, GM Marie. So, it's not a takeover actually in the first place, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Provided it's open, then let the Baneco board choose whoever they want in accordance with the rules and with NEA rules. May rules naman yan eh. Diba? NEA can only recommend and send GMs if it's ailing. If it's not ailing, the co-op can choose on their own. That's why they have a board, so that they govern their own.
If I may, Mr. Chair, the process was complied with, and all the applicants has to go through the stage 1 of pre-selection process, regardless of they are existing employees of a electric cooperative. And then a final interview by the NEA board was done and evaluated. And based on that final interview, the NEA board has recommended the applicant who got the higher score. There's a numerical score given to there are series of tests and then interview, and the NEA board recommended endorsed the applicant who got the higher score of the two.
Yeah, because Administrator, I'm reading the NEA memo to EC 2000 dated number 2007-35, 2017-35, and it's written here: selection from the list of names forwarded by NEA. The EC BOD shall select the GM of their choice. In the event that the NEA board rejects all pre-qualified applicants, the board resolution shall be submitted to NEA containing valid reasons, etc., etc. So the board has the power.
Mr. Chair, if I may, the board has, as stated, has the power, and also it does not exclude or preclude the selection process made by the board of NEA, whereby the candidate with a higher score was considered and endorsed.
But the board has that prerogative. The board has that prerogative to, in short, the board is an operating governance mechanism. And NEA can only come in whenever it's ailing and something is wrong with the co-op. But other than that, it's a functioning board. Ministerial na lang in NEA when it comes to the appointment of the GM. So that's my understanding of the succession plan and understanding of the selection process. Because in short, if the EEC is functioning, then let them function. Let them govern themselves. And they will just recognize the GM by means of ministerial recognition. So that's where I'm coming from,
Yes.
GM.
Ako, Chairman, exactly, that's exactly what the people in Baguio were saying, and that's why they were so deeply affronted by what occurred.
If I may manifest, Mr. Chair. Firstly, when the GM position was published and opened, one of the requirements for the process is the OIC shall relinquish his position as a GM, and that was not complied with actually by Engineer Licubin. He did not relinquish. If in the pre-selection process, there's a provision, and in that effect, there was no proper compliance by Engineer Licubin, Mr. Chair.
And Administrator, from what I understand, there is an approved succession plan and organizational structure of Beneco.
Yeah,
that succession plan is compliant to NEA Memorandum 2017-135. So based on we followed a succession process. And that succession process is based on your memorandum as well.
If I may, Mr. Chair, there is, a recognition here of the 2017-035 actually that was done by the board. And if I may, Mr. Chair, there's a pending a case with the Court of Appeals based on the action taken by the NEA board. So it's with the Court of Appeals right now, Mr. Chair.
Well, I won't belabor this topic, no. Yusek, but what is my concern is this type of incidences creates uncertainty in the minds of the consumers. Because if you are, if you're from Baguio and you see all of these things happening, the first thing that comes to your mind is, we will have electricity or not? Because there's no GM. Who's going to run the show? So that's our concern. Me and Senator Marcos are concerned of stability in that area. And Baguio it's a progressive area. It's not a small city. No, it's a highly urbanized city, and we don't want that to. We don't want them to have to experience brownouts because of this commotion.
Maybe,
So
Mr. Chairman, I think we are justified in asking. Maybe NEA Legal could give us a short briefer in writing so that we can also explain the incidents that took place, which until today rankle in the minds of most Baguio citizens. We are in the process of passing, in fact, a Metro Baguio to encourage Baguio as a development and investment center. So this doesn't help the cause. Thank you po.
yeah, I agree, Administrator, and so that we will not belabor this budget hearing, please submit to us your legal your legal basis for doing such action, because based on our own analysis internally, NEA is the one who did not follow its own memorandum. And the memorandum that I'm referring to is memorandum number 2017-35. No, so that we'll be cleared with this situation, please submit to us your legal basis on the action. And we don't want NEA to, NEA is the supervisor of all electric co-ops, and we don't want NEA to be imposing people over a well-run, a functioning co-op. And that's not the intention of the law. The intention of the law is for the electric co-ops to govern themselves. And NEA will just step in during problematic times, like if it's badly managed or it's ailing co-op. So just submit to us, Administrator, your legal basis, so we'll be enlightened.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. We will submit it on Monday. And just to manifest as well that our action taken by the board was supported by a legal opinion from the OGCC, Mr. Chair. We will submit everything, Mr. Chair, on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you. But in the meantime, what is the situation in Beneco? Is it stable? Is it still, are people rallying outside? What's the, and who is the GM now?
Mr. Chair, if I may, the GM right now is Engineer Licodin, the GM before this trouble came in. So the Beneco employees, as I've said, reinstated or refitted the SCADA system, which they have taken out 2 days ago. So there is no, trouble in the area anymore as far as Beneco complex is concerned, as also confirmed and discussed by me with Mayor Magalong 2 days ago, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Did I understand you correctly? The SCADA system was disabled?
It was removed physically by the Beneco employees, Mr. Chair. So when the group of NEA and GM Marie walked in, so they have to switch to manual the substations so that it will not be interrupted. So when 2 days ago when they returned, the Beneco employees together with Engineer Licobin, they had with them the SCADA system and they refitted it back. So it's now back to automatic system. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The SCADA system is the automated system that controls everything. So without you have to turn on all the substation manually, meaning you have to go there and physically turn it on. No? So it's unfortunate that it reached this level, Yusek, but my plea to NEA is to review your own rules, make sure that we follow our own rules, and make sure that Beneco is running smoothly because we owe it to the people of Baguio. In fact, we just approved the charter of Baguio a few months ago. So that's my plea to NEA, and we just want to make sure that electricity is continuously flowing to the homes of our constituents in Baguio.
Yes, if I may, Mr. Chair. Yes, that is our program and our mandate, and we are not going to disrupt that anymore. And just to make another point that we followed our policy as the OGC has given and supported our action earlier. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Administrator. Administrator, I'll go to the budget proper already because I have some questions here. Obviously, one of the biggest operations of NEA is giving out loans to electric co-ops and giving subsidies. No? These two are the biggest operations. And when it comes to subsidies, you have released hold on, let me get 2 point when it comes to subsidies, there are about 2.7 billion unliquidated subsidies to date, no? These are subsidies that are not liquidated. Obviously, the subsidies, part of your responsibility is to liquidate it. But 2.7 are unliquidated, and within the 2.7, 338 million were further released to ECs who did not liquidate. So my question is, what is the status of this unliquidated amounts? And then why did we release 378 million to ECs who did not liquidate?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I may be permitted to give the floor to our DA for Finance, Mr. Chair, Sonia.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, it's true that our unliquidated subsidies amounted to 2.7 billion as of December 31, 2020. However, 1.2 billion of this amount is not yet due for liquidation, meaning only 1.5 billion is due for liquidation, and out of that 1.5 billion, 627 million was already liquidated as of August 31, 2021, leaving a balance of 893 million na lang po. So starting February this year po, we stopped releasing subsidies to those electric cooperatives with unliquidated subsidies, except for calamity assistance po. Kasi that would be necessary for the restoration and rehabilitation of calamity affected distribution facilities of the electric cooperatives po.
Thank you, Director Sonia, and I commend the NEA for reducing the unliquidated subsidies from 2.7, some of which are still current, to 893. No, that's quite commendable. And I hear from you that you already stopped giving subsidies to ECs. who have not liquidated their subsidies except for calamity. And that's a
Yes, sir.
turnaround from your old policy because your old policy didn't contain that I remember.
Yes, sir.
Kailan nag-umpisa yun, Director, that policy?
Sir,
When did that policy come out or started? When did that policy start?
the non-release of to those ECs with unliquidated subsidies. Actually, we had a meeting with our co-auditor here, and the co-auditors emphasized that we should not do that anymore. So
When did that happen?
we had early this year, Your Honor. And also we wrote the commission that we be granted that the release of subsidies to electric cooperatives be exempted from the COA circular. However, what the COA authorized is the release only of calamity funds to electric cooperatives. So we stopped. Even before the COA decision not to release, we stopped na po as early as February this year.
That's good because I remember last budget hearing, I also raised this. We saw
Yes
this
po.
and nanganganak siya, lumalaki ng lumalaki yung unliquidated subsidies So if we don't have discipline and we keep on giving ECs even though they're not liquidating, it will get bigger and bigger. And of course, that will reflect on your financial standing.
Yes, sir.
But it's good that you change the change in policy. So there even those ECs who are struck with calamities, they're not going to be given subsidies anymore. They're going to be given calamity funds, which is a grant, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and in the form of the grant, they still need to liquidate.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so in other words, except for calamity-stricken ECs, they're exempted from that policy of not giving out more subsidies to those who have not liquidated.
According to the letter of the COA, it is only during this pandemic situation, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, we can change that later on. Pero parang hindi kayo natatakot sa Senate sa COA lang kayo takot.
Ala!
Hindi naman po, takot din po kasi.
Hindi naman kami nakakatakot. Kaya lang.
Smiley face kasi si Senator Amy, smiling face
Yes, ma'am.
But we always raise this. I remember raising this a few times But it's good that there's whether us or COA, it's good that you change your policy because I see it's growing And
Saka
moving
kawawa naman si Chairman Sherwin pagdating sa plenary, ang tagal-tagal.
Yun nga kinakatakutan ko Sen Amy.
Diba?
The same topic, Director, yung e-surf, no? I noticed that the e-surf went down from 750 to 200.
Yeah, it's a big reduction.
On top of that, there is no calamity fund, no, for next year. So where will you get? What is the mode to help our calamity-stricken ECs?
If I may, Your Honor, for 2022 COB, we provided 200 million from our internally generated fund to be released to the electric cooperatives as calamity loan. Initially, in the meantime, nawala pa pong calamity grant.
Calamity loan muna. But that's the whole point of the e-surf, diba? So that it will not be charged as a loan because the loan eventually gets passed to the consumers. When you extend calamity loans, obviously may interest yun. and the interest will be passed on to consumers.
At lower interest of 3.5% lang naman po. Very minimal as compared to commercial rates.
Yeah, but that's why we enacted the emergency e-surf law, no, so that ECs will not be burdened, especially calamity-stricken ECs will not be burdened with interest rates.
Yun na nga po ang gusto sana namin. We thought kasi that with the ESSER, the funds will be released to us even without the calamity pa. So parang may standby fund po sana kami for to be released to the electric cooperatives. But unfortunately, hindi po ganun na nangyari. And actually, very late din po talaga ang release sa amin ng ESSER. For 2021 po, August lang po namin na-receive yung SARO.
That's really the design of the e-surf when we were debating that law. So, Director, just submit to us how much do you need to increase it? Of course, we want to make sure that the e-surf is funded. Based on your experience, how much do we need to raise the e-surf?
Actually, Your Honor, for 2022, we requested 1.2 billion. For
Okay.
2022 budget po sana.
Just give us a basis of that 1.2. How did you arrive at that 1.2? Just submit to us a computation. Because
Yes, Your Honor.
hanap kami ng pera ni Senator Amy, we have to justify that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, if I may manifest, we really need your help for the e-surf, given the situation of the electric cooperatives and the distribution system. So we appreciate much the support that Mr. Chair and Senator Amy Marcos will give us. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Laki ng bawas.
And that's an important item because of alam naman natin we're always hit by typhoons, and ECs are the first one who bears the brunt because the poles go down, electric wires they go get damaged. So on the issue of sitio electrification, Senator Amy opened this up already. I just want to follow up their question. How are the 1,885 sitios selected?
Mr. Chair, if I may, on the selection of the CTOs, we have the parameters for the selection of CTOs. Do we have the slides? Can we put the slides for clearer understanding? Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. On the screen are the parameters for the selection of CTO electrification, Mr. Chair. If there's any question or clarification.
I've seen this before, no, and I just want to reconfirm if it's the same. Because I saw in the selection of sitios, and I'll flash it also on the slide. Some of the regions don't have any sitios selected, and I'm quite concerned with ARM, no, because I know that part of your selection process is poverty, no, the poverty incidents in that area. But if you see ARM, there's no sitio selected in ARM. So what is ARM not part of the SEP, the sitio electrification program?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the case of BARM, we really have, the peace and order condition, especially in the CTO locations. And that's really one of the difficulties we have. Meantime, we are also coordinating with the NTF-LCOP so that we can be supported by them as well in terms of the peace and order, Mr. Chair. That's the primary reason, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, but Administrator, BARM is big, huh? You have not all BARM areas have peace and order issues. Like for example, Tawi-Tawi, I've been there many times and it's safe. The Lanao areas are also quite safe. Generally naman, the other areas are safe, no? The areas that are not considered unstable, they're identified areas. Point of the matter here is, based on your criteria, poverty incidence is part of it. Can you flash that? Yung kanina, yung kaninang flash ng NEA.
Mr. Chair. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Poverty incidence, energy level at 84% and below, poverty incidence. Everything's poverty incidence. So I think it's general knowledge that BARM is one of the poorest areas of our country. More so that we need to energize their sitios there. Just to show that government is present and government is reaching out to those areas.
Mr. Chair, if I may, one of the reasons I cited was the peace and order, and more importantly as well, the liquidation issues, Mr. Chair, out of the, this is a collective non-liquidated expenses. Out of the 1 billion,
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Senator Amy.
Yeah, while we're trying to get back Mr. Wanesa, I'm just curious because originally dun sa NTF-LCAC, naalala mo, yung ibang barangay doon, ang hinihingi, mga electrification mula sa NEA. So I'm wondering if it's too much of an evil plan to attempt to get some of the NTF-LCAC, which I have no doubt will be reduced, and put it dito sa ating SEP. Kasi entirely justified naman to. Oh, may peace and order issue, may poverty issue. Palagay ko, swak na yan dyan sa SEP.
I do agree, no? Because it's chicken or the egg question. Without electricity, there's poverty.
Yun na nga.
Insurgency. So it's a chicken or the egg question. Without electricity, it's basic. So yeah, we can explore that, Senator Amy, with your support. I think we can explore that.
Kasi the way things are going, that will be reduced. But definitely, we have to help a lot of those barangays. And I think a big part will be just adding to their SEP.
Correct. I do agree. I see administrators already here. Administrator, Senator Amy was saying during our debates regarding NTF-LCAC, one of the requests of the barangays is electricity. No, because they know without electricity, there's poverty. If there's poverty, there's insurgency. So it's important to reach out to them, no, so that they will feel the government and they will feel the services of government. So that's why I think we should really look at ARM and the poverty-stricken areas there so that government can reach out to them.
Ako, Chairman Sherwin, palagay ko mas appreciate nila yung kuryente kaysa sa yung mga nakalista doon ng mga livelihood at training na wala naman trabaho. Yung malalabong elements doon, mas okay na tayo sa SEP.
So far as Yusek, administrator, insofar as the co-ops there that are ailing, there are a few, no? Like for example, Magelco in Maguindanao, Siaselco, Suelco, and Caselco. So these are not ailing according to our list. So meaning they can be used to facilitate the SEP, the Sitio Electrification Program. So my point of the matter, our point lang naman, Administrator, is we have to reach out to the BARM because I saw in your list that BARM is not included, and general knowledge that BARM is one of the most poorest poorest areas in our country, and electricity is one way to reduce poverty.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Given the present allocation we have, we will refocus and reconsider to allocate more Sabam area, Mr. Chair. And we actually were also talking when I was still in the DOE that we might be able to get or source some funds from the 450 million, I think, fund, and we can allocate it as well, Sabarm, Mr. Chair. And I think Yusek just Posadas, we have talked about this, Mr. Chair, 2 weeks ago when I was still with the DOE, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Administrator, please consider it because it's really one of the desires of our kababayans in BARM to get electrified, no? Especially if that area is surrounded with insurgency. That's one way to ward off insurgency by making sure that electricity is continuously flowing.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we will do that. We will do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Administrator. Administrator, I will just jump a little bit, no, to the performance of the electric co-ops. Because, of course, part of the responsibility of NEA is to nurse these co-ops back to health and to make sure that they comply with the standards given. Like, for example, there's still, in my information, no, and please update me if I'm incorrect. There are 7 ailing co-ops, no, Abreco, Maselco, Suleco, Aleco, Baselco, Lazareco, and Tawelco. Without going into each one, what is the strategy of NEA to nurse these ailing co-ops back to health? Whether it's going to be NEA or whether it's going to be the private sector. I know Aleco went through a different modality by way of getting a private entity to operate their system. But what is the strategy of NEA to get this ailing co-op 7 back to health?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, with regards to the 7 ailing co-ops, as mentioned, and in Mindanao itself, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6, and the strategy is we are looking at for the Lazareco. If you will allow me to read, the interventions that we have in our program. For the Lazareco, NEA installed a task force management and special concern office, meaning there's already actually a team in Lazareco, and this is really a big issue, as everybody knows about it. And also we are looking at the involvement of BARM in terms of the situation, financial and technical standing of Lazareco, Mr. Chair. On the Suleco, we have also created a special concern group from NEA for consultation with various government agencies such as NPC SPAG and of course the farm government. So it's really difficult the situation and how we can help refloat these electric cooperatives. So it's common to all the seven, Mr. Chair, and for the case of Aleco APEC, we have our team reviewing the concession agreement, but there's some legal issues because of the concession contract. But and nonetheless, we are looking at other ways of setting aside, the step-in rights to be exercised by NEA if there are private participating entities who might be interested to invest in these ailing electric cooperatives. The National Electrification, Mr. Chair, is willing actually to sit down and drill out some better way of refloating these electric cooperatives, Mr. Chair.
You said, Administrator, which ones of these co-ops do you think is ripe for a private sector operator? Because I know the NECO is, there's a task force there, and apparently I heard it's much more stable right now.
Yeah. I think, Mr. Chair, Magelco should be, one good place or one good electric cooperative.
Okay. And is NEA facilitating this the entry of this private sector operator?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have a department for private investors. We have that reactivated actually, Mr. Chair, about 3 months ago when the board of NEA discussed about refloating the ailing electric cooperatives, not NEA stepping in, So we, based also on the direction given to us by Secretary Kusi, that in as much as possible, we have to embrace private participation where they are most suitable out of these 7, Mr. Chair.
I support that, Administrator. I really feel that if everything else is not working, the private sector does it best. In fact, the private sector does it better than government when it comes to operations. And if we can invite private capital to come in and operate, that will be the best, no? Because private capital will be used, and we will not shell out subsidies anymore. We will not shell out government loans anymore. This will be a never-ending story. So I support that. But having said that, what do you? Can you give us some updates on Aleco / APEC? Because this is actually a private company, no, San Miguel, that came in. But how come it's still, from my information, because marami kaming kababayan from Bicol, from our information, it's still being plagued with brownouts and a lot of issues. So what happened to Aleco and APEC?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. The specific areas actually in the Aleco APEC franchise or Aleco franchise, a lot of areas, especially in the islands, I forget the 2 island names. The consumers are not paying, Mr. Chair, rapu-rapu and but there's something they are not paying, Mr. Chair, so the collection efficiency is so low. I think they are ranging at about 50 to 60% collection efficiency. So the Aleco/APEC are not able actually to pay their arrears in terms of the power supply. And also, Mr. Chair, there is a misunderstanding, or there's a legal questions being raised by Aleco to APIC, and it's not truly resolved yet. And in fact, we asked our NEA LS to review the concession contract because it's contributing to the to the to the plight of electric consumers in the area, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Administrator, we would just, I can see that you have a summary here, no? Just furnish us this summary, so we'll be updated with the development surrounding the 7 e-link co-ops.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we will give you a updated report on all these 7 electric cooperatives, and also will provide you our version of private investment program.
I support that, the private investment program. I really can see that that will be a way to revive this e-link co-ops using private capital, because we can't continuously pump in subsidies, taxpayers' money to keep them afloat. They have to learn how to stand by their own, or else this will be a never-ending subsidy.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Administrator, I saw in the report that part of the SEP program is to give solar roof systems to schools. Now, I can see here that there are solar roof systems in Lipa City, primarily Lipa City, no, so far. May I know how these schools were? I support. I support. No, I support this program. No, this program is. In fact, I remember when I was a mayor, I had this program. I was thinking of launching this program in Valenzuela. I call it Energy Independent Schools, whereby you put solar rooftop panels, biogas, and electricity will be produced on its own. But during that time, solar panels were still quite expensive. No? So, but I'm just wondering how these areas were chosen, and what is the end goal of this project, and how are we measuring the success of this project? No? Those are the things that I want to just for information.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Firstly, the solar panel installation for in public schools basically initiated by the congressmen like I think Senator Amy Marcos had the program, and then we have a list of legislators who have allocated for the solar panel installation in public schools. Unfortunately, for the 2022 NEP, as shown on our presentation, we so far got nothing for the solar panels in public schools, Mr. Chair. In fact, in my first-hand knowledge, Mr. Chair, in Masbate, there are schools that are requiring electric supply or electricity supply. And when I was still in the DOE, and I know for a fact, Mr. Chair, that Masbate schools are requesting for solar panels. So we don't have in our 2022, Mr. Chair.
I didn't see the second page, but marami nga sa Ilocos Norte. Masipag ho kasi ang senador doon kaya marami ho siyang nauuwi.
Yeah,
Pero
Mr.
Mr.
Chair,
Chairman,
that's
alam mo,
why.
ang itatanong ko sa NEA kung maaari, alam mo yung solar para sa eskwelahan, mas maganda sana yung solar panels para sa ospital. Kasi grabe talaga yung pangangailangan ng ospital at ang taas-taas ng kanilang kuryente, lalo na ngayon, 24 hours talaga eh. Whereas yung school, habang school hours, na wala namang school ngayon, habang may school hours, may araw. Yun talaga nangangailangan. Sana i-redesign natin if ever makakuha tayo ng pera para sa ospital po.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, if I may, I really agree with the statement of the good Senator Jaime Marcos, because the UNDP program, actually, we call it Dreams UNDP. The program, they have installed, or they are installing solar panels for the hospitals. For example, in where I come from in Iloilo, they have a program. So maybe, Mr. Chair, if Senator Aimee can give us some money for the hospitals.
Chairman
Mr.
will
Chair,
have to
thank you.
look.
Yeah. Administrator, I again second the suggestion of Senator Aimee on the hospitals. It makes sense, no? If we can put solar panels in our government hospitals, that will be a good project. Of course, that they will demand a lot of funds, but just put it on your radar, no? And I support the solar panels in schools because mahal ang Senator Amy knows that. She was a governor. The local governments normally pay for the electricity of the schools, and also eats a lot of cash in the budget of the local government. So if we can make it independent of electricity, we'll save a lot of money for the local government. So just to give some suggestion to NEA to look at these two items, no, the schools and also hospitals. If that's possible, to put solar panels and other technologies such as battery or even mini biogas systems.
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chair, we were going to do that, but we need the help, Mr. Chair, because we don't have the money.
Try our best. No, to augment your set budget so that we can do more of that solar panels. We support that.
Maraming salamat talaga, Mr. Chair, and Senator Aimee.
Masipag yata si Senator Ralph Recto rin dahil sa LIPA meron eh.
Meron din.
Wala
Halata tayong mga rumatsada.
And on a separate note also, but this was opened up by Senator Aimee, on the issue of the pole relocation, Administrator Vanessa, I know you're very familiar with this because you helped facilitate this last year. In fact, there was a movement because of your effort. We managed to remove 20,000+ poles No? So thank you for facilitating that. Prior to your facilitation, walang gumagalaw. But unfortunately, there are two issues here. No, I got a report from DPWH that the disbursement rate for pole utilization, pole relocation in 2019 and 2020 is 0%. So meaning they have downloaded the funds to NEA, but NEA has not dispersed it. Yes, this one, no, this came from DPWH, and my fear is this might create delays, no, because the ECs are already relocating, but the money is not being remitted to them. So maybe we be enlightened with this information from DPWH.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as mentioned, si Mr. Chair naman talaga ang nag-drive nito, and we were the implementers. Mr. Chair, for the information, there was no downloading of funds from the DPWH to NEA. The transaction is done directly between. We are facilitating, but the downloading goes directly to the electric cooperatives concerned after the site inspection done by both parties, and then the electric cooperative updates NEA, and that's where we are involved, Mr. Chair. So the money does not pass through anymore in NEA. That was agreed when we made our GC3 and Memorandum of Agreement, Mr. Chair, with DPWH and DOT.
Thank you for that information, Administrator. I apologize for that for that information. No? We were made to understand that it's being downloaded to NEA, and NEA disburses the funds. No, so I apologize for that. However, I know there are about 50,000 poles remaining, and the budget needed for that is about 3 billion. Is that correct?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Chair. The estimated requirement is 3.6, 3.7 actually, B, Mr. Chair.
How much was included in 2022 budget?
We don't have, Mr. Chair, a budget for pole relocation.
Yeah, parang wala
It's
eh. That's what I was
it's a
asking earlier.
DPWH, because it is a DPWH road widening, Mr. Chair. So the money still goes to the DPWH, Mr. Chair.
Apparently, my staff gave me this number. They have 1.5 billion pesos allocated in the DPWH budget. So that's only half of your requirement. So just please help us validate this now, because it's DPWH obviously who will spend the money, but it's NEA who's facilitating it. No, so in other words, it's really NEA that we look up to when it comes to pole relocation. So please help us validate this 1.5, and we'll try to augment another 1.5 so that we will clear up our roads eventually, no, next year, no, because Senator Amy is right. Whenever I go around the provinces, meron pa eh, marami pang mga nasa gitna eh. And this is a gut issue, because if somebody got into an accident with those poles, then obviously, you know, that's a problem for us, no? So magtulungan ho tayo, but we'll help augment this so that we will clear up all the poles.
If I may, Mr. Chair, thank you so much, Mr. Chair. We'll call for a meeting with DPWH next week, and we'll update you, Mr. Chair, so that whatever support both agencies will need, we will of course update you, Mr. Chair. Magpatawag ko ng Mr. Chair, joint meeting with DPWH and DOE, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
My last question, Administrator, this is from an email I got from Occidental Mindoro, and apparently we have issues with brownouts there, no? Ormeco and Omeco, they have problems, no? And I got this email from actually from a person who is connected to the education sector. So maybe get some updates there, and what's the game plan to eventually end brownouts in that area?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I may, about a month and a half ago, we, together with Secretary Kusi, NPC, and NEA, we have, upon the direction of Secretary Kusi, the NPC is going to rent a equivalent of about 17 megawatts, Mr. Chair, and installed in Mindoro Oriental, and then the gensets will export power to the other side, to the Occidental Mindoro, Mr. Chair, because the transmission system in Mindoro Island has already been looped or completed, Mr. Chair. So instruction was given to NPC and NEA in that board meeting with Secretary Kusi about 45 days ago, Mr. Chair. And in fact, I remember that the Occidental Mindoro Electric Cooperative was also supported by NPC for a 24/7 operation of the NPC plant in Occidental Mindoro. And about, I think, 4 weeks ago, I was in Occidental Mindoro, Mr. Chair, and we energized the final loop of the transmission system for both provinces, Mr. Chair. So DOE, NPC, and NEA has already the procurement of the 17 megawatt gensets, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Administrator. So it's a supply issue.
Yes, Mr. Chair, what happened was the CSP process of the both electric cooperatives were not finalized yet, and DOE has given a certificate of exemption from I think 2 months ago until end of this year, December. That's why the two electric cooperatives, Mr. Chair, are expediting the CSP, and they are already the Occidental Mindoro has actually awarded already 2 sections of the CSP, or two parts of the CSP to their provider, and also the Oriental Mindoro or Ormeco is also finalizing and will be awarding soon their CSP, Mr. Chair.
What are the timetables for the award?
Mr. Chair, if I may, the timetable is before end of this year, because the commitment of NPC is only until end of this year. However, if there will be obstacles, the NPC provision of power will remain until after the election, Mr. Chair.
No, that's the reason why I ask is, of course, these two co-ops should stand on its own. They're not small, remote areas. No, these are Mindoro is a aggressive island, and if it's an issue of CSP, then they just have to do a better job in conducting their CSP. So That's my take on it, no? Because my take on that is, Ormeco and Omeco are quite, middle to big size co-ops. And I was surprised that even Mindoro has this issue of brownouts. So by end of the year, they will have uh, private suppliers supplying the island already.
If I may, Mr. Chair, yes, Mr. Chair, and on the part of NEA, we will be really pushing hard, that the PSA shall be already awarded because of the timelines, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Administrator. Administrator, that's all I have for my list of questions. And Senator Aimee, any more?
Senator Win, thank you very much, my chairman, and I would just like to enjoin the NEA to please be properly updated on the developments in Beneco. You said it's quiet already in Beneco now, but in truth, I got numerous texts saying that the opposite has occurred. NEA suspended the board that rejected the new GM yesterday, and a forcible entry by NEA occurred into the premises of Beneco. However, the consumers intervened physically and put in place the old GM. So it's now being run by the old GM and power supply being managed manually all over again. Perhaps we need to look at this very seriously po. It is not about to end. The dispute revolves around the fact that NEA appointed a GM who is alleged to be disqualified for lack of experience, the 5-year experience stipulated by NEA's own rules. Sana tignan po ninyo ito ng mabuti at magkaroon ng katapusan ang kaguluhan dyan. Thank you po.
Yes. Thank you.
If I may, Mr. Chair. Yes, Senator Aimee, we will be really, serious. We are serious about this matter as directed as well by Secretary Kusi. And that event that you mentioned was or happened about, on 18th of October. And Engineer Licobin, the previous or the GM before the trouble came up, and his team, they are back, in their places. Thank you, Mr. Chair. We'll submit the report, Mr. Chair and Senator Aimee. Thank you.
Administrator, beyond the report is we want to be absolutely sure that the operations there is stable and rules are being followed, no? Because the same information I got that the reason why the previous board didn't accept the appointee is because of lack of qualifications. No? So there are allegations of NEA not following its own rules. There are allegations of this Beneco has a succession plan and they follow the succession plan. And there are allegations that even the new appointee is not qualified. So there are all of these allegations, and the problem is, Administrator, it's the consumers who are bearing the brunt. Not only there's risk of brownouts, but they themselves are going to the compound, and there seems to be a form of people power, to install the GM, the old GM for that matter. No, this is a process issue, Administrator, and please look at this very carefully, and please be on top of this situation, because we owe it to our constituents in Baguio. And we'll be monitoring this situation very carefully. In fact, Senator Aimee and I might have a hearing just to look at this closely. Now, I know this is a budget hearing, but we need to look at the details closely. So we might conduct a hearing on this. But hopefully prior to the hearing, maayos na ito because all we want is stability in that area.
If I may, Mr. Chair, that's the reason, Mr. Chair, that GM Maribanag, who was appointed by the board, and our PS project supervisor, Attorney Mayo from NEA, they are located outside the Bineco compound to maintain, stability. We recognize that, of course, the consumers were panicking because of what happened 2 days ago, and we concede to that. Of course, that's why we are also waiting for the Court of Appeals to decide on the petition filed by Engineer Licubin, and that would actually clear the way for both parties, Mr. Chair. But with due respect to everyone, Mr. Chair, I would like to mention that Secretary Kusi has directed me last night that we should keep the electricity in the franchise area at all costs, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
For that, just keep us abreast with what's happening. We're also monitoring, and obviously Senator Ani being from that area is monitoring this situation. So, Senator Ani, any more?
No more questions. And with that, I would like to endorse for approval the budget of the NEA, subject to the submissions and information required to be sent to the Mother Committee of Finance and thereafter to plenary po.
Thank you. With that motion, I'm favorably endorsing the budget of NEA to the Mother Committee and thereafter to plenary. So thank you, Administrator. Thank you, Senator Aimee.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Maraming salamat po,
Thank you very
Mr.
much
Chair
to the
and
NEA
Senator
family.
Aimee. But we will be looking at the additional funds for hospitals and schools.
Iyo
Thank
hindi
you.
nakakalimot.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Aimee.
Thank you.